He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
You also talk about good buildings. So could you just sort of give us your summary of what makes a good building?
Sure. That's a really good question. I'm happy you asked that. So a good building is a building that is managed well. So the management is on top of things, right? They're not too micromanaging where you feel like you're living in a prison, but they care just enough to make sure everything is functional, operates well. The condo board is proactive. These are more so on the legal and financial side of things, right? Because you have to understand, condos are also corporations.
They're
right?
companies, yeah.
They have cash flows, they have expenses, they have revenues and operating budgets, right? So condo can be good or bad in that aspect as well. But in terms of the more end user experience, in terms of day to day in the building, it truly does have that. It does kind of create that community experience. So the elevators are rarely ever out. You don't have, fire alarm testing at like 4 a.m. or fire alarms going off, right? People know each other, right? People know each other. You truly feel there's a residential feeling that flows through it. It's clean. People are cleaning all the time, right? The floor plans are functional. Obviously, every building is going to have from smaller ranges to larger ranges, but the smaller floor plans are, once again, functional. Then you have the 2,000 square feet floor plans. The demographics of the building are high end. There's more owners than tenants. Not to say there's no tenants, but there's more owners, right? It's stuff like, one reason I like some of the best buildings in the city, I think, are like Tridell's like A+ tier buildings. Is because something as simple as and you might laugh at this, people do, but when they actually view it in person, they be like, okay, that actually does make a difference, which is their doors are actually heavy. Like they don't feel like cardboard doors. They feel like proper, like there's a heft to them when you open the door to the unit, right? So it could be something as simple as that.
And the door handle isn't ready to fall off.
Exactly, right? And it's just a streamlined experience. But those, unfortunately, are becoming a little bit more rare nowadays. And there's obviously a spectrum, right? There's just okay buildings, but yeah.
Well, that's a great point. So let's dive into a very important thing you talked about, which is the condo board maintenance, monthly maintenance fees, how the finances of the building are run. Yeah. And you've noticed some real questionable issues and also a pattern. So talk about the pattern of why a new building has low monthly maintenance fees and then eventually at some point 4 or 5 years later, they require a substantial increase.
So just like, as I said, condos are corporations and there's different ways where you manage a corporation. Unfortunately, in more cases than not, nowadays with new buildings, the board attempts to keep the maintenances as low as possible in the first 1 to 3 years to make that maintenance fee more attractive to buyers. Right now, of course, no one's ever going to come out and say that, but that's just my thesis. And as a result, like when they would have to be spending $50, they just spend $10, right? They want to show in their audited financials, they always want to show a cash surplus, right? To make the corporation look as healthy as possible. And it's not always misleading, or it's not always some sort of,
it's not a conspiracy.
Yeah. Sometimes generally expenses are lower in the first 1 to 3 years.
Yeah, sure. It's a new building.
Yeah, right. But they're more conservative with their dollar, right? And what you see is in the 4th and 5th year in that building, what happens all of a sudden is they were late on, addressing certain things, and now they have to kind of tell the people, okay, we're going to do all these capital expenditures
because we got no choice,
right? To address it, right? That's actually the better case scenario. Worst case scenario is like a special assessment, right? So at least in this case, they're addressing it through their cash on hand, right? But
Okay, so for people who never lived in a condo, so the great fear in condo world is something called a special assessment. I mean, that's typically where the building is gone on for a few years. It's not a young building. It might be 10 years, 15 years, wherever. And by the way, with some of these very new buildings we see coming on stream that have really questionable finishes, questionable workmanship, we may see this issue happen earlier. So this is a major maintenance problem. It might be windows, it might be balconies, it might be elevators, it might be roofs. It could be a lot of different things. It could be a swimming pool that's going to all suddenly becomes a real problem. All these things cost a shit ton of money. And if you're in this province of Ontario, and this is true of most provinces across Canada, you have to have because you remember how this building fell down in Florida? Just one day, the building just pancaked, just fell apart. It turns out that building in Florida, in many buildings, you didn't have any requirement for an engineering study. You didn't have any requirement to have engineers in there and study the upkeep of the building.
What I remember, and I could be wrong, is actually in that case, there was an engineering firm telling the building, hey, we should do something.
That's correct, yes.
And they were like, let's keep expenses.
So in Canada, but in most provinces in Canada, not everyone, but in most provinces in Canada, there are very strict regulations that if you have to do an engineering study every so often, you have to go by its results. If you don't, the provincial government will step in and there will be trouble. Okay. So we have a lot more discipline in that here. But what can end up happening is, as you pointed out, if you've been kind of negligent about the ongoing maintenance, when and again, with these sort of shitty finishes, shitty workmanship buildings, I mean, the balcony just may start to disintegrate.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.